Yo, it's Kim, and there's been a lot of mixed feelings about the Panasonic's full frame camera. Some are really happy about it, and some are saying that you don't even need full frame. So I wanted to clarify everything to the best of my knowledge about why Panasonic's full frame camera matters in 2018, starting off with why full frame matters versus a smaller sensor. Number 1, high ISO performance. No matter which way you cut it, a larger sensor will always gather more light than a smaller sensor. The reason being, there's more surface area to gather light. This is why noise on Micro Four Thirds cameras is about 2 stops noisier than full frame cameras at any given time. It's not about how much light is hitting each pixel, it's about the total amount of light hitting the whole sensor at any given time. So the amount of noise you can expect out of a Micro Four Thirds sensor shooting at ISO 200 is about the same amount of noise you're going to get from a full frame camera shooting at ISO 800. If you want more information about this, check out that video. Remember, this is a general rule and there's so many factors at play here, like if the camera has more megapixels, it'll usually have more noise, how old the sensor is, or whether it's backside illuminated, or how aggressive the camera's noise reduction is, or even if the camera has more than one base ISO, like the GH5S. But even then, modern full-frame cameras easily shoot up to 12,800 ISO or even 25,600 ISO, with cameras like the A7S II and presumably the A7S III easily shooting well above that and still getting really good results. Micro Four Thirds typically tops out at 6400 ISO, with the GH5S being able to produce decent results at 12,800 ISO. Number 2 is more megapixels. Micro Four Thirds is pretty much locked at 20 megapixels, and that's to do with the actual size of each pixel in relation to the sensor. After this point, the pixels themselves become too small and the image quality suffers. Now, to give more context, if a full frame camera had the same pixel density as a 20 megapixel Micro Four Thirds camera, it would have 80 megapixels. At this point, full frame cameras have reached 50 megapixels and still have decent low light capability, but that's just how it is. Bigger sensor, more light gathering capability. Lastly is dynamic range, and this is related to the first point, but basically the bigger the pixels are, the more dynamic range you're gonna have. Now obviously, if you have a 16 megapixel full frame camera and a 16 megapixel Micro Four Thirds camera, the full frame camera is going to have larger pixels, and because of this, it's always gonna have better dynamic range. It's just physics. So that's a general look at why full frame cameras have an advantage over smaller sensors. Let's have a look at why this matters for Panasonic. Panasonic is competing with the likes of the D850 and the A9 for stills, but trying to upend them with better video quality at a more affordable price. Panasonic couldn't do this with their Micro Four Thirds cameras because the D850 literally had more than double the megapixel count than any Micro Four Thirds cameras, which is a big advantage for landscape photography or even portrait photography. And it couldn't do this with the A9 either because the CAF on Sony is just so far ahead of what we have on Panasonic. On top of that, the sensor size was smaller on Micro Four Thirds cameras, which made a difference in absolute image quality. So if you saw my last video, you know the new full frame camera from Panasonic has video features that are starting to compete with cinema cameras. What Panasonic is trying to do here is close the gap between mirrorless and DSLR cameras and cinema cameras, and the result is the best full frame video camera you can get without buying a cinema camera. And with rumors saying it'll have way more than 30 megapixels, Panasonic is probably going to position this as a hybrid camera, one that has great video quality but can also be great for stills, similar to the A7R III. But in my opinion, full frame cameras can be overrated, which is why this is part 1 of a 2-part series. Join me next time when we look at why Panasonic's full frame camera doesn't really matter.